Salutations and a clenched fist salute, my YouTube outlaws. Welcome y bienvenidos to Outlaw News. The voice of the barrio, the voice of the vato loco, the voice of the voiceless. Cyber Raza, is everyone suited and booted today and strapped with your critical thinking beanies on, right? If you are, let's get ready to get activated, my YouTube renegades. Okay, let's not waste any time today in recapping our last videos on Hollywood celebrity rapist Boxer Enriquez. Let's just jump straight to today's part 4 of your boy, the Outlaw's in-depth alternative profile and perspective on one cartoon gangster named Boxer, the creme de la creme rapist Enriquez, and his decision to begin cooperating and debriefing.
Let's get to where he becomes an informant. I don't know if I did, I think I might have in my first video said that he debriefed in 2002. Well, let me correct that. He actually debriefed in 2003. If I make any slight inconsistencies, please leave a comment below and I'll correct them or apologize. I'm not like the other snitch influencers who run with my mistakes in life. But I'm trying to freestyle this. So I really don't have all my files, all my books, all my court transcripts, everything laid out in front of me to give you every exact detail. I'm trying to. So if I make a mistake, please just leave a comment and forgive me and I will correct it. So again, like I said, registered Marvel comic rapist Rene Boxer Enriquez debriefed in 2003. And that's what we're going to pick up on. Registered rapist Rene Boxer Enriquez, life after debriefing. And like I told you at the end of part 1, that you are probably wondering, what else do I have to say about this man? How else can I belittle him? How else can I bring him down to the level of clown gangster that he really is? Because he's not an intellectual gangster. He's not a cut above everyone else. He's not an intelligent, business-minded criminal. He is a manipulator, a liar, and a registered rapist. He is the Southern Cali Michael Thompson. The Michael Thompson con tres flores. Okay? He is the Cholo Mike Thompson. Mr. I'm Rambo in the prison yard, and I took on 20 guards, and I took on all 4 prison gangs at the same time, and came out unscathed without a scratch. You know what I'm talking about when I compare registered Marvel comic book rapist Rene Boxer Enriquez to one Michael Thompson. But let's begin the profile on registered rapist Rene Boxer Enriquez. Wait, there is one thing before we actually start this profile that I want to touch on that I forgot to mention in the first video, and I forgot to just mention right now. I know in my first video I told you, and I will keep repeating it, that Rene Boxer rapist Enriquez is a habitual abuser and sexual offender against women, right? I told you that he raped a woman, he assaulted a woman, and he murdered a woman in part 1, right? And that's all before 1989, okay? He assaulted, raped, let's go in order. He raped, assaulted, and murdered a woman. But that's not the only woman's life he destroyed in that time period. There's one other woman that he mentions whose life he destroyed. And that is his jefita, his mother, su madre. Yes, guys, I don't know if you guys don't recall in his over-glamorized Had a Snitch and Get Rich book, but he mentions that while out on parole in 1989, he is the primary person responsible for getting his mom strung out on drugs. Now I bring that up because I want to point out the level this man will stoop to, the morals he has, that he's willing to kill women, rape women, fight with women, and get his own mother strung out on drugs. Now, one other thing I want to touch on, in 1989, when he got arrested for the David Gallegos and Cynthia Galvadon murder, he didn't just get arrested for the 2 murders. He was actually arrested for other crime, which would lead to him being indicted. I believe they got arrested for the crime, and while they were in LA County Jail, they began to snitch on each other and people began to snitch on him, right? Well, I wonder what he thinks of them, right? For what they did to him. But you can't think nothing bad about a celebrity rapist snitch like him. He's cool, okay? So we know that he didn't just get arrested for those crimes. There was a prior crime that led to him being investigated for those 2 murders. Now again, you guys might not remember in this over-glamorized paperweight of a book, but he mentions that he's riding around, strung out on drugs, with his 2 little dope fiend homies, and they happen to see a 17 and an 18-year-old kid standing in the corner. And what does Mr. Marvel Comic cut above the average gangster because he's so intellectual and business-minded do? Decides to rob them. Not for $3,700, not for 370 kilos, not for $370 worth of gold and jewelry or any type of items they had. No, they robbed them for $37. Now I want to remind you, this is the man that claims he was running around kicking doors in, right? Robbing people for thousands of dollars of drugs, robbing people for thousands of dollars of cash, thousands of dollars of jewelry, that they were pulling off 2 robberies a week, that he had a whole crew of guys running around robbing, making thousands of dollars for him. Yet, he gets arrested for robbing somebody for $37, okay? Now, I want you to listen to this video and listen to what this registered rapist says out of his own mouth. So you don't call me a conspiracy theorist. I want you to hear what he says out of his own mouth about his and his homies' criminal ventures and finances.
But my concept of the organization was skewed. I thought it was silk suits, limousines, hot chicks, all the money in the world. There was none of that when I got in the organization.
You see that? Right? The man that claims there's all sorts of mystery bank accounts everywhere and that everyone's mysteriously balling out of control, right? Even though everyone lives in apartments, right? Paroles to hotels, right? Rarely has cars, right? And their family live in Section 8 housing or ghetto housing environments, right? But there's millions of dollars flowing in this group, he claims, when he talks on this viral video. Everyone is extremely rich, right? That's why they parole to a motel, right? That's why they parole to their mom's house, right? Do you think John Gotti paroled to his mom's house? Do you think John Gotti paroled to a motel? Or anyone who would be considered a high echelon, intellectual, business-minded gangster? Do you think they parole to their mom's house? Do you think they have to steal a car from somebody? Or do you think they can afford to get a car when they parole? Do you think they parole to a motel? Or do you think they parole and probably end up running and owning a hotel? Those are the 2 things I quickly wanted to touch on that were related to his 1989 parole and cause of why he was rearrested. So remember, he got his mom hooked on drugs, and he got arrested for robbing somebody for $37. Okay, that's it. So now, let's go. So, while all the snitch fanboy groupies are out getting We Love Boxer t-shirts, or Welcome Back Home Boxer t-shirts, or I Heart a Celebrity Rapist t-shirt, and the snitch influencer community is organizing and holding Welcome Home Rapist Boxer potlucks and orchestrating and planning out how they're all going to take turns to interview him, to tell him what a wonderful rapist he is. If he's such a wonderful rapist, do you think they would mind if he paroles in their community, lives in their streets, right? If he's such a wonderful guy, do you think they're willing to introduce him to their daughter? their sister, mother, so they could hook him up so he could take them out on a date for a few drinks and show him a good time like he likes to do to women, right? Right? Do you think they would want, because this is important, Rene Boxer Enriquez is going to be let out on the streets, or he's already probably out on the streets, and he is a registered rapist, a known sex offender of children, because this was a teenage girl he raped again, right? So I asked this question. The snitch influencer community and the snitch fanboy groupies think he's such a great man and changed his life. Do you think they would want him to be the counselor of their troubled teen daughter? Because I don't know if you know or not, before he was released, they've already arranged for him to not only begin podcasting with the serial killer, Mundo Mendoza, he also has plans to begin working as a counselor with troubled teens, okay? So do you think they want him living in their community if he's so wonderful of a rapist? Do you think they're going to hook him up with one of their female loved ones since he's a wonderful rapist? Or do you think they would let him mentor and counsel their troubled teen daughter? Because I guarantee you, that young girl that he forcefully raped wasn't in the right state of mind when he forcefully raped her. She was probably in the same situation he was, a troubled teen, right? And now, this guy's gonna be free on the streets to make a podcast with a programmed, known serial killer.
Mendoza, you've been selected to be enrolled in the Lister program. It's a surgery to remove the front part of the brain that controls the violence. It's a government-funded program.
Now why would I give you the best part of me?
Because you're the perfect candidate.
Okay? We're not sugarcoating it here. We don't call them heroes, okay? We don't buy their fake Christian bullshit. He's gonna begin podcasting with a serial killer and be allowed to mentor young, troubled teenagers. Think about that for a moment. He is a registered rapist. Would you like to know that your troubled teen that's being counseled by somebody who's allegedly supposedly going to help them is known for being a habitual abuser of women, right? And a registered rapist. Think about that for a moment. So instead of giving high fives here at the Outlaw of what a wonderful thing it is that this rapist is being freed on the streets to kill, assault, and rape women again, because that's what he's going to do on his third chance, not his second chance, his third chance. Okay? We're not brainwashed snitch fanboy groupies here at the Outlaw. We know the difference. We understand math. So now he's on his third chance to be free as a registered Marvel comic book rapist, right? Gangster, that's what he is. A super Marvel comic book registered rapist gangster. That's what he is, really. He's not a wonderful man. He's not a changed man. He is a make-believe clown gangster who, in 2003, finally showed his true colors of who he really is, who everyone always knew he was, who he's been profiled to be for a long time. Weak. Somebody that was going to be easily manipulated and broken down inside the Pelican Bay shoe, like he was, right? They broke him down in the Pelican Bay shoe because he was already weak. There wasn't that much to break on him. It's clear from all his characteristics from when he was a child, being told to stop being a bitch at 12 when he got jumped in, and all the crimes he committed up until this point, that he was weak. He shows all the proper characteristics of a weak individual, that if you are a good law enforcement psychologist, criminal psychologist, For any kind of psychologist that studies the criminal mind, you understand he was a perfect candidate for what happened to him in 2003. He was on a crash course to debrief.
It's Rene Enriquez.
Period.
My,
it was so obvious from the day he got jumped into Arta 13 where his life was going to head. And here we are, 2003, doing the one thing me, and I'm pretty sure any good psychologist and any good IGI investigator knew was going to happen to him. Okay, so there it is. So now we know he's debriefing, 2003. Boxer begins debriefing, right? Right? Allegedly changing his life around, according to snitch fanboy groupies and the snitch influencer community, right? Who claim since 2003, one Marvel comic book clown gangster, registered rapist Rene Boxer Enriquez, has begun cooperating with law enforcement and providing tons of information to help cripple his old gang, right? Because he's apparently the highest echelon snitch, right? To ever defect from the Mexican mafia, right? That he changed his life and is now combating gangs ever since 2003. That he's done so much for law enforcement. These are the comics people are leaving. That he's done so much for law enforcement since debriefing that he deserves to be free. We're gonna define what it is to change your life if you decide to debrief. And then we're gonna talk about what he's actually done for law enforcement. Remember I told you, you'd be surprised what I have to say to trash this guy anymore, his credibility and his so-called supervillain Marvel comic book gangster status. And this is where I'm going to begin, bringing him down to the level of what he is. A weak person that's told to stop crying and rapes women and robs and steals because he's a drug addict. Okay, so let's start. Let's define what it is we believe is when a person changes his life. Now let's think about this. Not your life, not my life, not the person standing next to you. But we're talking about a guy who was a rapist, who was a drug dealer, gangbanger, a murderer, right? A so-called super echelon gangster that's cut above the average gangster, an intellectual, business-minded gangster, right? So we're going to define that. If I was Rene Boxer Enriquez, I debriefed in 2003, and I allegedly wanted to change my life, right? I would no longer be using drugs, selling drugs, participating in gang activity, trying to sexually assault people, right? Because that's what I was doing before I debriefed. So then, those should be the four main core things I probably shouldn't do after I debrief, right? Because I'm a changed man. I found God, according to him in one of his last recent interviews, that he is a man of faith who shoots up heroin, right? So I wonder if he's slamming heroin and reading the Bible at the same time. Because that's what he does. He ain't changed. He's still the same dirtbag he always was. And that's what I'm going to prove to you today. Because if, again, he was a new man, right? Headed in a new path to change his old ways and is helping combating gangs and combating drugs and all the negative things he engaged in before, right? He wouldn't be doing any of this stuff on an SNY yard, right? Okay, let's go. Let's get it. Let's do it. Do you guys know that one registered rapist, Boxer Enriquez, in 2004 was caught for being on drugs while on a protective custody yard 1 year after he allegedly changed his life and began cooperating with law enforcement? So this guy is not even a year into his so-called changing my life and manipulating everybody that he's some so-called new man, and he's still slamming heroin on SNY yards as he was doing on the GP yard, right? The very first crime and addiction that sent him to prison. The main core reason he's involved in all this that led to him debriefing. And he's still doing it on an SNY yard. But that's not all. He also was caught in 2004 for trying to smuggle drugs in to an SNY yard so he could sell in his little underground drug dealing network that he had running on an SNY yard, right? So he's using drugs like before. He's still selling drugs on an SNY while an active informant, while actively testifying and providing information for law enforcement. But did you hear them mention any of that during the period that he was testifying and doing all this? No. It went hush hush, like his rape, right? But they don't glamorize him and they don't glorify him. Just like they don't talk about Joe Morgan's snitch past, right? Because then they can glorify and glamorize the dirtbags. But that's not all Marvel comic book clown gangster registered rapist Rene Boxer Enriquez is doing on SNY yards. You guys also know that it's reported that he's classified a member of an SNY gang. I wonder when he joined the SNY gang and they initiated him, did they have to stop and tell him, stop crying like a little bitch? Huh? Because he still has the same characteristics. He's still acting and behaving with the same mentality as that 12-year-old weak boy. Nothing has changed. He hasn't changed in new life. We're not even into 2 years into him changing his life. And the dope fiend is doing all the same shit that he was doing before he snitched. But that's not all he was doing. Because remember, we are talking about clown gangster, cut above everyone else, intellectual business minded Rene registered rapist Enriquez, right?
Hombre, donde hay mal, donde hay malicio, donde hay peligro, busquen, pregunten, llamen por el hombre.
He is a rapist, a known rapist, who one of the very first crimes that sent him to prison was rape, right? And like I said, if you were doing certain things in the past illegally and you knew those things were wrong, and now you're changing your life, you shouldn't be engaging, allowing, or glamorizing such sexual deviant behavior, right? But what does he do? He's on an SNY yard, caught trying to sexually assault fellow SNY inmates. Huh? Right? Mr. Registered Rapist. Right? The same people who try to downplay that we don't understand what happened back then. That it wasn't really what it was. You know how girls are when they're drunk, right? But yet, Megan's Law says he's a forceful rapist. And now what's he doing? What do they tell you? Oh, well, it's not really what you think. They're really just kind of rumors, right? Trying to downplay the fact that he's trying to rape fellow SNY inmates on SNY yards. There it is. Get it? You see it? He ain't changed. He's no different than when he was on a GP yard. He's gangbanging, selling drugs, using drugs, and trying to rape people still. And yet, we can go on social media platforms and see people leaving comments of what a wonderful guy he is, how intellectual he is. People even referring to him as being so smart and articulate that they could see him as President of the United States. But then again, we do have Bill Clinton, who sexually assaults women with cigars. And then we have Donald Trumpas, who's allegedly had numerous rumors of sexually assaulting women, right? So yeah, then I guess I could see a clown like Boxer as president. He probably would be the first Chicano president, right? A fucking con man, rapist, manipulator, and liar. Yeah, dude, he fucking fits the perfect profile for that. because he ain't a gangster, right? He ain't Sean Gotti, he ain't Lucky Luciano, he ain't Meyer Lansky, he ain't even worthy of being a cartel boss, Pablo Escobar or Chapo Guzman. But he is a clown that could be president because he's a sexual deviant.
Outlaw Posse, this ends today's part 4 of the Outlaw's in-depth alternative profile and perspective on one celebrity snitch, influencer, rapist, Boxer Enriquez. In a few days, your boy's Outlaw will drop Parte 5 y it's going to go into detail on what exactly one celebrity snitch influencer, Boxer Enriquez, has done for law enforcement, the individuals who Boxer's actually testified against, what law enforcement's done with the evidence Megan's Law celebrity snitch influencer Boxer provided during his famous YouTube viral debriefing video, and how Boxer's debriefing statements relate to the prisoners who were once housed in SHU units returning back to a general population prison yard. So in closing today, the Outlaw leaves a message to you, Boxers, the rapist, Enriquez's fanboy groupies, who are commenting and probably saying to yourselves right now that the Outlaw is a keyboard warrior, a coward, a punk, who wouldn't dare say any of your comments to Boxer's face directly because you're scared of an individual such as Boxer, because he's got such a heavy rep in prison. No, actually I wouldn't be scared. In fact, the Outlaw would love to attend a speaking event or a book signing to ask him directly one simple question. Show me the money. ¿Dónde está la feria, cabrón? The Outlaw doesn't need to be scared of celebrity rapist, snitch influencer, Boxer Enriquez. Why? According to law enforcement, the parole board, and you yourselves, the snitch fanboy groupies, Boxer's a changed man. A man who is very religious now, according to him. A man who's doing everything to right his wrongs. Right, fanboy cult-like groupies? Or do you subconsciously fantasize and hope that Boxer's still some super creme de la creme killer gangster? Again, you fanboy snitch influencer groupies are seriously delusional, confused, and some of the most hypocritical individuals who are probably more of an unstable danger to society than individuals such as Hollywood snitch influencer rapist Boxer Enriquez. Ya saben, stay suited and booted, Outlaw Renegades. The Outlaw is over and out. Y venceremos.